My name is Tyler, and I'm 26 now. But what happened to me when I was 21 still feels like it happened just yesterday. Back then, I was just starting college in Portland, Oregon. I needed a place to live, and after searching for what felt like forever, I found a small ground floor apartment in an old building. The rent was cheap, and the landlord was eager to rent it out. On the second night, it started. At exactly 3:17 a.m., I heard 3 distinct knocks on my window. At first, I thought it was the wind, or maybe a branch, brushing against the glass. But it wasn't. It was a rhythmic, deliberate tap, tap, tap. I checked the window. No one was there. I started to tell my friend Kevin about it. At first, he laughed it off, thinking I was just tired from studying too much. But when he stayed over at my apartment one night, things took a dark turn. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the knocks began again. Kevin didn't seem convinced at first, but then he went to the window. When he looked outside, his face went pale. "I see him," he whispered, his voice shaking. I started to do some research on the building. I visited the local library and found an old newspaper article about the apartment complex. The building had been constructed in the 1920s, and over the years, it had a long history of strange occurrences. One article mentioned a tenant who had disappeared without a trace in the 1950s. Another spoke of odd noises and strange shadows in the halls. It seemed the building had a dark reputation, but I brushed it off as mere coincidence. The knocking continued. Each night, it came at the same time, but one night, things escalated. I woke up to the sound of the tapping again. This time, though, I felt something more than just fear. I felt frozen, like something was watching me. I slowly got out of bed and walked toward the window. As I pulled back the curtain, I saw him, the man. He was standing just outside my window, staring directly at me. His face was pale, almost sickly white, and his eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just dark voids. He didn't move, just stood there, his gaze never leaving mine. My heart pounded in my chest. I slammed the curtain shut, but the image of his face stayed burned into my mind. The next morning, I found something. A small, folded piece of paper slipped under my door. I opened it carefully, my hands shaking. It was written in a shaky, almost frantic hand. "Leave before he enters." My heart skipped a beat. I ran to the window, but there was no one there. I couldn't take it anymore. I set up a camera near the window to record whatever was happening. The knocking came at 3:17 a.m. again, but this time, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. The footage showed a man standing right outside the window, but this time, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. He was whispering something, but the audio was distorted. Then, he did something I'll never forget. He smiled. His mouth stretched unnaturally wide, as if it shouldn't be physically possible. I froze, unable to believe my own eyes. I couldn't sleep after that night. The knocking grew louder and louder each night, and I began to question my sanity. I couldn't tell if it was real or if my mind was playing tricks on me. Every time I tried to sleep, the knocking would keep me up. I started hearing whispers in the walls. I couldn't focus on anything. I was barely functioning. I had a conversation with Kevin one day, and he asked me, "Tyler, are you sure you're okay? You look tired. You don't look like you're sleeping at all." I told him about the whispers, about the figure outside my window. "Maybe you should leave," he suggested. But I couldn't. I didn't know what was keeping me there. I packed my bags and left the apartment that night. I drove to my brother's house hours away, but no matter where I went every night, I would wake up at 3:17 a.m. and I would hear the knocking, even if I wasn't near a window. A few weeks later, I received a call from the building manager. He said that the new tenant who had moved into my old apartment had left after just one night. When I asked why, he said that the tenant heard the same knocking and saw the same figure staring through the window. The worst part? The manager said that the building had a strange history of tenants who had disappeared, and that the knocking was just the beginning. I never went back, and to this day, I still hear it. The tapping, the whispering, the feeling of being watched.